In this episode of John's Arcade, we're going back to the garage. That's right, guys. This is a John's Arcade restore video. Then we're going to come back to the basement and do viewer mail. All right, guys, let's get on with the show. Hey, guys, we are in the basement, and today we're going to do part number 6. Yes, part number 6. Of the Jumpbug restoration, guys. That is right, and yes, I am back. Did you miss me? I know. It's been almost 2 weeks since the last video, and honestly, that's not like me because I usually get one video out every week, and I'm sorry, guys. You know, I've been busy. I did the Fun Spot thing. I was in Atlanta, so I lost some weekends, and honestly, I was kind of laying low a little bit. But anyway, we're gonna get back on track starting with this video, and yes, this is part number 6 of the Jumpbug restoration. In this video, we're gonna really attack the cabinet because we need to do a lot of woodworking and sanding and Bondo. We're gonna work a little bit more on the metal parts like the coin door. We're gonna do the hammered finish and all that, but we have a lot to do. But honestly, we're actually pretty close to the end. I think we'll be able to finish Jumpbug in a couple of videos, and honestly, we need to because we have a lot of projects stacked up in the basement because, in the garage, because once we get Jumpbug done, I want to attack the Quantum. We also have the Firefox as kind of like a side project, and then we also need to get to the computer space, and I know you guys really want me to work on that computer space, but I really want to do these projects in the order I brought them into the garage. And so it's gonna go Jumpbug, and then Quantum, and then computer space. That's the plan, okay? And I think Jumpbug will be done in like 2 to 3 weeks tops. That's my hope anyway. So anyway, enough of that. Let's get into the garage. Let's go to the garage, and let's get working on that Jumpbug, and hopefully we get really far today and we'll be almost done. All right, guys, let's go to the garage. All right, guys, we are back in the garage. I know it feels like it's been months since we've been out here, but you know what? We need to get back to work. We need to finish this Jumpbug. So let's quickly review, because in the last Jumpbug restoration video, well, what did we do exactly? Well, I remember we removed the coin door, okay? We stripped that down. We actually fixed some holes that were drilled into it. The operator, whoever, had some kind of a lock type thing on it. And they drilled some extra holes here. So we put some JB Weld kind of liquid metal type stuff on here to patch these holes. So we're gonna sand this down and paint this thing. It's funny, actually, this coin door rusted a little bit since the last video. So the coin door's been out here for a couple of weeks, and the humidity, whatever, and the bare metal has caused this to rust. So we're gonna go over this again and sand it. We also patched a hole here on the frame for the coin door. There was some holes drilled right here, so we got those all fixed. Let's see, what else did we do? We cleaned up the control panel, and it was looking pretty sorry before. It looks great now. We still have some cigarette burns. That's okay, we can live with that. You know, there's no reproduction for this overlay, so we're just gonna live with it, and honestly, it looks pretty good. I think it looks great, actually. And we cleaned up the joystick and all that stuff. We also soaked all of the plastics that we removed, like the coin door and the buttons. I had these soaking in some Simple Green, a little bit of bleach, and some water. I let them soak for a couple days, and these cleaned up pretty nice. So we'll put the buttons all back together, get the control panel all back together. In the last video, we also addressed most of the metal parts. We sanded and painted all of those, and those are looking pretty sharp. And then also, I had the tumbler going, okay? So this tumbler was going. I had it going for about 3 days. I put all of the screws and the metal parts and all that stuff that would fit in here, and you can see these are all looking pretty good. So here's some carriage bolts. This was a carriage bolt, I think, to hold the joystick on. I threw the springs in there, the PAL nuts, for the buttons, and everything here is looking pretty good. I think what we should do first is actually get all this media out of here and just take all of our screws and take inventory of them, because we might need to paint some of them. And actually, if we go over here, when I was taking the control panel apart, I noticed that it was missing some of the original screws. Because on the control panel, there's a metal bracket, and they had these Robertson screws right here, okay? These are called Robertson screws. And actually, one of my viewers brought me a set of bits to the Fun Spot event, a gentleman from Canada. So he gave me a set of these. So thank you, pal. So now I have the official Robertson bits for these Robertson screws. And I guess these Robertson screws are kind of pretty standard in Canada. I wasn't aware of that. So we now have the bits. Because before I was just using like a standard screwdriver bit to get those screws off. And it's funny because the Firefox over there also has some of those Robertson screws. But anyway, on the control panel, someone replaced some of those Robertson screws with these giant, very non-original looking like standard screws. And so I knew that I was going to need some more screws to put on the control panel, and I was trying to find the Robertsons. Of course I couldn't at Ace Hardware. So I found these, which were a close match in size. Now they are kind of Phillips, but when you buy them at the hardware store, you can't find them in black, like ever. They're never black. They're always just that kind of zinc alloy color. So I just bought a bunch of these screws. I sanded the heads and I spray painted them. And so these are here ready for us when we're ready to put the control panel back together. This is a little tacky still because I actually painted these earlier today. So I'm going to put this to the side and we're just going to let that, just kind of dry. I probably won't touch those screws till tomorrow. But what I want to do now is I do want to empty my tumbler, and I want to see how all my screws look, because we might need to spray paint some of these screws if they look really bad. I noticed that a lot of the screws were not painted at all. They were kind of that gun blue stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this food strainer, that we use in the house, and I'm just going to dump this stuff in here, and we'll just get the media to go in the garbage. I use walnut shells. It's really cheap. I'm not worried about throwing this away. I just basically want to get to all the metal parts and just take inventory of what we have going on here. And you could see, though, the tumbler does a fantastic job. I mean, I had this stuff tumbling for 3 days. And to sit there and sand these parts is just crazy. I mean, this stuff looks great. But you do get some of the media in the Phillips head there, so you got to kind of pick it out. So it does kind of get stuck in the parts. And you can use a toothpick, which is what I did last time. But let's take a look here and see how everything looks. So these carriage belt bolts here, I think we could leave those alone. I'm not even sure what these do. I forget. These ones, though, I know are visible. These small ones, I think those are for the joystick. I might paint those. I think we will, actually. Let's see what else is in here. That looks good. Everything looks pretty good. These are the springs for the buttons. I think some of these springs are for the coin return on the coin door. But I think this stuff all looks really good. So, all right, let's just put this to the side for now. I think what I'm going to do is, I'm going to pull some of these out, and we're going to paint the heads, like these carriage bolts. I think we'll paint these. So let's just pull these guys out, and let's see what else is in here that might need painting. So these are the original Robertson screws, and those look great. Those look brand new. And those were all kind of rusted when we removed them. So yeah, the tumbler is a good time. And I bought this tumbler on Amazon. It was really cheap too. It was like 30 or 40 bucks. We have all those C-clips in here. We don't want to lose those. All right, so I'm going to take these parts and put them on the table, and then let's get ready for our next step. Okay, I have all the parts on the table here. I actually lost one of the E-clips for the buttons, and I just robbed one from the Quantum cab over there. So I don't know, it must have fell through the strainer. Because actually I found a couple of these parts on the bottom of the garbage can. So I guess when you're straining this stuff, just make sure you have a strainer where the holes aren't too big. And I think parts kind of snuck through here on the side. But anyway, I think I want to just put the buttons together really quick, and we're just going to kind of bounce around here. But so here's our buttons all clean. I think they actually look really good. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to come in here and just put them together. And I kind of separated the parts. So here's the spring. That kind of goes on like so. Okay. And I think these cleaned up pretty nice. And then we need to take one of these E-clips. So this one right here is for the joystick, because that one is clearly different than the other ones, because the bottom of the joystick has an E-clip as well. So that looks pretty good. So let's go do the other ones really fast. Really simple to put back together. Just spring, button, and then the clip. And these buttons actually cleaned up pretty great. I see no reason to buy new ones. I actually really like the feel of the old buttons, and they just have a nice softness to them, and obviously they're worn down a little bit, which I think kind of adds to the whole thing. And why not? Let's save some money. What's wrong with that? I mean, we can go online and buy new buttons. Actually, these long white buttons are getting pretty hard to find because these are long leaf switch buttons. Some of them don't have the E-clip. Some are just kind of the plastic's kind of mushroomed on the bottoms. Those are kind of newer repros. These are the ones to get. The ones with the E-clips, long, white. I think these were maybe Wicco brand. I'm not really positive, but these are actually really good buttons. So let's put this one together. Okay, so we've got our 4 buttons now ready to go back on the control panel. And I think those look really great. So, okay, so now, and I have 1 E-clip left, and that is for the joystick, and I've got 2 springs left, and those are for the coin return on the coin door. Okay, so let's kind of take inventory here. So I've got these 3 carriage bolts. I really don't remember where these went. They might have held a bracket on in the front. I'm not really sure where these went, but regardless, actually I know what these are. These held the coin door on, and 1 was missing. That's right. These go, I think, in here. So I'm going to have to go to the store and try to find a 4th carriage bolt, or maybe just get 4 new ones. These actually seem pretty small, but yeah, that's where these were. These were holding on the coin door right there. That's right. So what I want to do, though, is I want to paint the heads of these. Actually, those, yeah, they're a little grimy. So we're going to paint these. I want to paint these 4 little tiny carriage bolts because these are what holds the joystick on, and these are going to be visible, and they just don't look very good. So let's come over here. I'm going to put them on my cardboard Zappos box here. And I think boxes work great for painting screws. You can just kind of just punch them in like so, and then just paint the heads. And I'll use 12 packs of soda. This is a corrugated carton. You know, this was just like a Zappos box. I ordered some new Vans actually. So let's put this on here, and we'll paint those up. And then this stuff can dry. I don't think I'm going to touch these screws till tomorrow. We'll let this stuff dry overnight, and I'll put a few coats on. So let's just kind of get these in here. Okay, so I think those are the only ones we really need to paint. I do have these guys too. Those actually look pretty good. I don't even think these came off this game. Are these the coin door ones? Maybe those are the, no, yeah, maybe. I remember when I took the coin door off, I was missing some of the bolts, and I think it was, it's either those or these big guys. So let's put these on here too. And we'll just paint all these. These look more like the ones that should be holding the coin door on. All right, so let's bring this box over here, and we're just going to hit this thing with some spray paint. I'm going to use some Rust-Oleum Satin Black, and we'll just kind of come in here and just hit this thing with that. So I'm going to use this Rust-Oleum Universal Satin Paint and Primer in 1. This is the paint I use all the time now. Rust-Oleum Satin Paint and Primer in 1. So let's just go ahead and hit this stuff. And I'm going to probably do, 4 or 5 coats here over the next hour and just let this stuff really dry overnight. So we'll let that stuff go. And then let's kind of go over here now, because I think what I want to do now is get the coin door going, because I don't think I'm going to put the control panel together just yet until those screws are dry. We'll probably do that tomorrow. And I'm going to take all of these metal screws here. I'm going to throw them in a cup just so I don't lose this stuff. So guys, we are back in the garage. I know, it does feel like it's been forever. I feel like I haven't been out here in like 4 months. I know that's not true. It's only been a few weeks, but I got busy. We did that Fun Spot tournament. I went to Atlanta, which, by the way, was freaking awesome. You guys are all amazing, honestly. It was just unbelievable, the people that showed up and said hi, and all the John's Arcade shirts. It just kind of blew me away. But anyway, let's take these parts over here. So we're going to paint this stuff now. And I have a plan for this, because the coin door originally had a hammered finish on it, okay? which is actually a great finish because it hides a lot of the imperfections of the metal. And so that's why they do that hammered, that kind of textured finish. And we're gonna try to recreate it because we've removed all the original stuff really. And let's see, where's my patch job? It's right here. I need to sand this smooth. So let me get my palm sander. So we're gonna sand that down first and just try to get that as flat as we can. And then after it's flat, then we can just kind of paint this thing. And I'm actually gonna sand the whole thing here because a lot of it, like I said, that rust kind of showed up since the last video just by being out here and being kind of just exposed naked metal. So I'm gonna come in here with my sander. I have 100 grit sandpaper on here and let's just sand this thing really quick. Okay, we're done sanding. So here's where we did our little JB weld. See those holes? That's perfectly flush here. And like I said, we're gonna be able to get away with a lot here. I'm not completely prepping this coin door. It's okay because we're using that hammered paint and it's gonna just hide all of the flaws on this thing. So we don't have to really go nuts when you're using the hammered. And we are just trying to recreate the finish that was on here. And it was just kind of rough paint job that really does cover the imperfections. Now we do want to get off the big chunky rust stuff though. We don't want any kind of loose paint. And this stuff is really flaky. It's not really the best. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think what I want to do now is I want to clean this stuff up with a little bit of simple green and then we'll let it dry and then we'll paint it. Let me go get some paper towels. Okay, I'm just gonna spray this stuff down with some mean green. You know, someday I will spend the money and have this stuff powder coated because I think that is the next step. Because you can just take these metal parts to a powder coater, they'll sandblast it, you know, then they'll do the nice powder coat finish and just hand it back to you, you know. And that really is something I need to look into. I just haven't been able to find someone that does it, you know, locally. I haven't actually put a lot of effort into it, to tell you the truth, but I need to take the time and find a guy. But at the same time, too, though, I'm kind of cheap, you know. I don't necessarily want to spend $100 to have all these parts powder coated when I can just do it myself with spray paint and sandpaper for about 10 bucks, you know. So that's the trade-off. It's like, you know, your time versus, you know, spending the money. And I think usually I'd rather just use my time. But the powder coating sure does look good. But I do get good results with the spray paint, I have to say. I've never been really disappointed in the spray paint. The only time I really didn't have good luck with spray paint was on that Pac-Man Cabaret control panel. And that was my own fault because I did that like late November. It was like 10 degrees out here. And I shouldn't have spray painted. It was just too cold. And then when I brought the thing in the house, the bend on the Pac-Man control panel, right on the corner, the paint started falling off. But again, that was my own fault because I painted in such cold weather. And I hope that doesn't happen this year, where we're out here till December trying to get, you know, the quantum, or could it be the computer space done? No, we need to finish the jump bug. That's the plan here, by the way. I want this jump bug done within 2 weeks, okay? In this video, we're gonna get really far, I hope. And then we're gonna start working on the quantum, and then the computer space, and we need to have all of this stuff done, well, before the snow comes. And so, it's not quite July yet, but it's gonna be September, October before we know it. So anyway, all right, so what I wanna do is I wanna paint the backside first. I always paint the back first. I think that's the safest way to do it because when you turn this thing over, the part will sometimes stick to the cardboard, and if it's gonna stick, I want it to happen on the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and just hit this. And what we're gonna do on the back though, we're not gonna use the hammered finish on the back. We're just gonna use the plain black because the back didn't have a hammered finish. It was only the front. So we're just gonna hit the back with this Rust-Oleum satin black paint. So let's kind of come in here And let's just hit all these two parts. I really should try to find a new coin door because this coin door is kind of a piece of junk. It's all banged up, it's missing parts. And I really should be looking for a new coin door on eBay or something. But let's see how far we can take this one. And Rich at This Old Game just sent me Rock-ola coin door stickers, which are pretty cool. So we're going to be putting those on. But I'm not going to put that sticker on a coin door until I'm absolutely confident that I'm going to be keeping the coin door. But for now, I want to take this coin door as far as I can. All right, we're going to let that dry. And then we'll come back. Okay, while this stuff is drying, I think we should start addressing the cabinet. And the first thing we need to do is we need to get everything off of this cabinet, because the plan is this. Well, we're going to strip everything off. We're going to remove the monitor, all of the bolts on the side, because you see there's these bolts right here for the monitor. So that means we need to remove the shelf, okay? I mean, this is the only way to do this. You have to take every single frickin' part off this cabinet, okay? So we're gonna remove every single part, including the light fixture, and we're gonna spray paint all of the blue. After we fix all of the imperfections, like right here, you can see there's some holes here. We're gonna fill those holes with Bondo and some dowels. The sides, we're gonna have to remove the side art, the original side art, because it's garbage, we can't use it. I want to sand this all smooth, and then we're going to put white laminate on this. We're not going to do it in this video because I haven't picked it up yet, but in this video what I want to do is I want to dress the cabinet, I want to have nice sharp corners, I want everything to be smooth, and then we're going to spray paint all of the blue. But before we can do any of that, we absolutely positively have to remove everything, and including the T-molding. We could probably start taking this off right here. So let's pop the T-molding off. And we're going to have to order some new T-molding. This is, I don't know if this is like 9/16. This is the textured, kind of leathery T-molding. But let's pull all this off. And you can see at the factory, they spray painted this cabinet. This cabinet was sprayed, okay? And there's a lot of overspray in this area. Look at that. And, you know, they probably had some nice HVLP guns. They didn't use rattle cans. But we're going to use rattle cans because I don't have that set up, but someday I will. But I found a pretty good match. And I did some little spray paint experiments on the front here, and you could see this is the spray paint I found, and it is really close to the original. So, okay, so we got the T-molding off. We need to pull the monitor out of here. And I know we've already done all this, like, because I removed this monitor when we capped it. So let's take the shroud off. Just kind of put this up here. And so to take the monitor out, right now it's being held on with these two bolts. That'll get us the monitor. Actually, I want to remove this whole shelf, which, yeah, it's these two bolts right here. So let me kind of undo this stuff. And right now I think I just have it hand tight. And I only have 2 of the 4 bolts in. That's probably what those 2 bolts are over there that we painted. So let me get this stuff off. And there's another one over here. Okay, so the monitor is free right now. I just need to get these carriage bolts out of here, which means I gotta lift this up a little bit to get the pressure off. Okay, so that's what those are for. All right, so the monitor's free, and right now it's just sitting on those brackets. So let's come back here. We're gonna have to disconnect the monitor from everything. So we have on the bottom, we have the video signal, which are these 2 wires right here. So let's disconnect this from the monitor. Okay, so that's unplugged. And then we also need to disconnect the power, which is right here. And we should be able now to slide the monitor out. So let's put the, let's go like this. And then I'm gonna have to bring it over to the table. Okay, let's pull this out. I cleared a spot on the table. Everything's disconnected. And I just need to be careful here. But this just slides out. Come on. What are we stuck on? All right. I need to be careful of the neck, because if I break this, I am in trouble. Okay. The monitor is out. And we're gonna have to now remove the brackets on the side here. These two brackets, and there's just thumb screws. That's pretty easy. So let's pull those out. Let me get my channel locks. So we've got two little thumb screws that are holding these brackets on. Let's kind of break it with my channel locks. Just come in here, get this off. But yeah, there's no way around this. You just got to get every single part off this cabinet. Okay, so that's that. And let's just pop those nuts out. The little carriage bolts that are holding the monitor on. So let's just remove these, like so. And I'm gonna go ahead now and just do the other side the same exact way. So I'll be right back. Okay, I removed the other bracket right here. So right now I want to just like remove the PCB and the power supply and just get all this stuff out of here, because when we're spray painting, I don't want to get spray paint on all this stuff, you know. And we're gonna probably mask this off a little bit with you know, newspaper and masking tape. But still, there's no reason for this stuff to be in here at this point. I'm actually gonna take a marker though, and I'm gonna write parts on this side, just so I don't put this on backwards. Because I remember when I made this connection with this edge connector on the board, I had to actually think about it, which side goes where. So I'm just gonna write parts on this side, because this is the parts side of the PCB, right? And so if I label this side of the connector with parts, I know that when I hook it up again, it goes that way. So let's disconnect the PCB. And I'd rather, you know, just make simple documentations like that than just kind of question myself later. You know, it just takes a second to do that. So let's get the PCB out of there. And let me figure out a nice spot to put it on. Let's put it over here on top of the bezel. And okay, so we have our switching power supply on the bottom that we hooked up. So let's get that out of here. And I had the forethought to put some Molex connectors on here so we can easily just get that out of here. And eventually we're just gonna screw that to the bottom. But for now, we're just gonna disconnect all of our connectors. There is one wire here that's a ground wire that I have screwed to that cabinet, so I'm just gonna unscrew that. Let me just grab a Phillips here. So we're just gonna come in here and just unscrew this ground wire. We just need to remember to hook it back up. And this is the field ground. So let's go ahead and disconnect that, and then the power supply should be free. Okay, so we can now remove our new switching power supply and put that to the side. Okay, so now what's left? Well, I gotta get this whole big box out of here. Some more screws on the bottom here. Interesting. Oh, these might be the missing coin door screws. Let's put those to the side. Okay. So we need to get the power supply off, the original one, and I'll show you why. Because if you look on the sides here, we've got some exposed bolt heads right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and those are holding that power supply on. So we definitely need to remove those, because we're going to laminate over this area, and we can't do it with those bolts. We cannot go over the bolts. We need to get the bolts off. So that means I need to come in here and we need to unbolt the original power supply. So let me get my socket set and we'll get down there and get that off. Okay, I have the old power supply and isolation transformer off the wall there. I just need to knock these bolts off. I'm kind of thinking I should throw all this stuff in the tumbler. We should have another tumbler session. All right, so there's all that stuff. This stuff's really junky. So I think I am going to tumble all these bolts I just pulled off, and we'll let it go for a couple days. So let me get that set up, and then we'll be right back. All right, I'm just gonna fill the tumbler up. Again, I'm just using Desert Blend ground English walnut shells, and this stuff's really inexpensive, and it actually works pretty well. So let's fill this thing up about 2/3 of the way or so. And let's throw all those bolts that we pulled off, because these are pretty grimy. We should really just tumble these. And you know, this thing could be cleaning this stuff while we're working on the other stuff, so there's no reason not to do this right now. And I don't have any Novus. I usually like to squeeze some Novus or wax in there, and I think I'm all out, but we'll be okay. We'll be okay without it. So let's put the lid on and plug this guy in and just let it go for a couple days. And then when it's done, we'll be able to figure out if we need to paint this stuff. And I do think I need to paint some of it, because I'm painting part of these parts right now over there. Okay, and then let's get our extension cord and just let this thing go. Just like so. I love that thing. That is a great investment, especially when you've got tons of parts. You know, because before I would sit there with the carriage bolts and the screws and the nuts, and I would sand each one individually, and I'd spray paint it. You know, with this thing, you just throw them in there, you let it go for a couple days, 3 days, you can go 4 days. The longer the better, honestly. It's not going to hurt the stuff if you let it go like a long time. Because I think the last time I tumbled, I think I let it go almost 4 days. So we're just going to let this go, and then we'll look at it in a few days, and then we'll decide what we want to do if we're going to paint it. So, okay, the one thing I'm noticing in here, though, is we need to still clean the inside of this cabinet, because it's kind of gross. Like, there's like some rats bedding stuff in here. So we got to get rid of that stuff. So I'm going to vacuum this out. And I also want to just kind of clean up that gunk on the left there. I don't know what happened over there, but it doesn't look good. So let me grab the vacuum cleaner, and let's just kind of vacuum this hoe inside, and let's make this thing nice and clean. And actually, I'm noticing this bracket right here. Should probably remove this. There's like one little screw holding it on. Let me get something. I didn't notice that bracket before. I think this bracket, I don't know what the purpose of this bracket is. It's kind of in a weird spot. What is the purpose of this bracket? It's kind of an interesting bracket. I honestly don't... Oh, I see. This bracket is the stop for the bezel. That's what it is. It's purely functional. I wonder if you're supposed to... If you remove this bracket, you can slide in the bezel from the back. But I noticed the bracket has some like foam on it. See that right there? To stop the bezel. So that's the purpose of this. So, okay, let's pull that off. There's no reason to have it on right now while we spray paint. And, all right, let me get the vacuum cleaner and let's vacuum this thing up. Okay, I vacuumed all the kind of loose stuff, the mouse bedding and all that crap out of there. But I do want to clean this thing up pretty nice, especially in here. This is kind of gross. And I already cleaned this, but it needs more. And I'm just going to go ahead and spray this on the wires. I'm not worried about it. Probably don't want to get it in the plugs, but I can get it on the wires, no problem. And I'm just going to let this soak for a little bit. And then we'll just wipe it up. So let's let that soak. And let's see where else. It's kind of gross down here. Again, I've already cleaned all this up, but we're going to do it again. Why not? I just don't want a gross, smelly mouse game in my basement. So this is our opportunity to clean it and really do it. Just do it. Don't bring some stinky game into your house. Just trust me. You don't want that in your house. So take the time, clean it up before you bring it in. And this is a great time to do it just because we have everything out. It's stripped. It's easy to get to. Let's kind of go up front here and take a look too. And we also want to clean this up before we paint it. Like right here, you can see like they spilled a drink or something. It's all sticky and gummy. So let's just kind of come in here and give this thing a mean green bath. Because we definitely don't want to paint dirt. We want a nice clean game. We want this thing to be nice and clean before we paint it. And this isn't hard to do, it's just time consuming. But we definitely want to get all this grossness up here. Yeah, that's cleaning up real nice. So that right here was all sticky, looked like someone spilled a 1985 Big Gulp on here. I remember when I was a kid when that Big Gulp came out. I mean, that was a big deal. It's funny to think that, you know, prior to that, you know, we were all drinking like 12-ounce sodas at McDonald's and Burger King, and then like 7-Eleven came out with the Big Gulp, and it was such a novelty because it was so gigantic. And I don't remember giant drinks prior to the Big Gulp. Is that when everything changed, where we all started buying these giant 32-ounce sodas? And they were cheap, too. And as a kid, it's like, oh my God, you telling me I can have this much soda? And that's probably when we all started getting fat in the U.S. When we all went to the Big Gulp. And I remember the Big Gulp, they would back in the 80s, it would come with baseball coins. These like these lenticular baseball coins. Do you guys remember those? That was some cool stuff, actually. And I had a whole collection of those coins. They were like on the bottom of the Slurpee cups. That's what it was. It wasn't a Big Gulp. It was on the bottom of the Slurpee cup, I think. And you'd buy the Slurpee to get the cup. And then on the bottom was this coin, and it was a baseball player that was shown on the coin. And I spent so much time at 7-Eleven. It was like, it really was like the coolest place in the world when you're like 15. Because like you can ride your bike there. If you've got a couple bucks in your pocket, you can actually, it actually went pretty far at 7-Eleven because, well, you could play video games. You know, that's where I played a lot of video games because they had, I know I've talked about this before, but I remember playing Dragon's Lair there. And actually, I probably didn't even play it. I just watched. But I remember playing Donkey Kong Jr. there and Yar, Kung Fu, Shinobi. That was probably my favorite game at 7-Eleven. That game blew my mind. That was so good. Shinobi is a great game. That's a classic. The controls were just so tight, you know? That kind of cool platforming and got guys chasing you and you're trying to rescue the girl. That game had it all. Shinobi was great. This actually looks pretty good in here. So I don't know why, but there's a piece of like masking electrical tape over this gap. Looks like it might have been there from the factory. So for whatever reason, they put this tape over here that covers this gap, and I'm not sure the purpose of that. But we're going to remove that because we're going to be painting all of this. So anyway, I'm going to keep going here. I'm just going to keep cleaning this cabinet. We've already vacuumed it. And I'm just going to really go through and make sure it's nice and clean before we move on to the next step. But it's looking pretty decent. So, all right, I'm going to keep going. I'll be back. Okay, the cabinet is pretty much all clean. We could probably do a better job. I will probably clean it one more time after we do the painting and the sanding, because we're going to have to, because we'll have all kinds of sanding residue and junk, but it looks a little bit better. What I really should do right there is sand that. But we'll do that later. I'll sand all that down, I think, and maybe get rid of all that junk. But right now it looks pretty good. But when we pull the sander out, I'll probably go in there real quick. So the one thing I want to do right now, though, because I want to take advantage of the time here, is I want to spray paint this stuff, because I want this to dry overnight. So we already spray painted the back of the coin door, okay? And I just used straight up Rust-Oleum Satin Black. Now I want to paint the other side, and this stuff's pretty dry. So we're going to turn it over, and I want to paint the other side, but this time we're going to use the hammered finish paint, okay? Because that's the finish we want to have on the front, is the hammered finish, this kind of textured finish. which is what it had originally. Now, originally, though, it was like a powder coating technique they used that gave it that textured finish. And so we're going to kind of fake it with this stuff here. Rust-Oleum hammered. The thing is, though, I don't like this color. This color is very unnatural looking. It's almost like a, I don't know what the color is. It's very silvery black. It's not quite black. It's almost more of a gray. So the plan is this. We're going to hit it with this a couple times. I'll probably do 2 to 3 coats on the front, and then afterwards we're going to go back over it with the satin black to make it a black color and not this kind of gunmetal black. So let's just hit this, because I want this to dry overnight, and then tomorrow we'll hit it with the satin black. It's getting kind of late here, and I'll probably be continuing this tomorrow. It's almost 7, and I need to go in and make dinner. But we're going to get up early tomorrow and come back out here. I'd like to be out here by 10 o'clock tomorrow. And I'm going to go as late as I can and then stop probably sometime around 1 o'clock, maybe 2. And then I want to start editing this video so I can get it out sometime on Sunday, I hope, if not early Monday or, you know, like 2, 3 a.m. after YouTube chews on it. So, all right, anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this Rust-Oleum hammered. We're going to do like 1 coat and then come back and do a second. We're going to let it dry, you know, for about a half hour, and then I'll come back and do a second coat. But this paint's pretty cool, though, because it does give you that textured finish, which is kind of similar to the original, but not exact. And this paint is super nice, though, because you don't have to do a lot of prep. It really does cover all the imperfections. And I think it says right in the can you can go over rust with it, because it's just so, you know, textured that it just hides everything. So I'm really not worried at all about our, you know, where we patched and stuff, and this is going to cover all that right up. But again, the problem with this paint is it's not exactly black. All right, so that's 1 coat there. I'm going to let that sit, and I'll come back and put a second coat on, and we'll let it dry overnight. And we got our tumbler going, so all this stuff's going to be happening overnight. See, that looks pretty good, actually. It really is similar to the original finish. All right, so let's let that go, and then I'll be back. We're getting somewhere. Okay, guys, it's the next day here, and so last night I put 2 coats of the hammer finish on the coin doors, and you can see here that the hammered finish itself is kind of a grayish black color, and so I already hit the coin door here, which is black. So what I did is I did the hammered finish, 2 coats, and I didn't like the hammered finish color, but I liked the texture, and then I went over it with just black. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here on the frame. But I think that looks pretty okay. So let's go ahead and hit the frame here with some black. And I'll probably do a couple coats while we're working and just let this stuff dry for a day or 2, and then we'll put it back together. Probably in a later video. So let's go ahead and hit the frame here with some black. But I do think this look with the hammered plus the black over it really is the way to go if you're going to do spray paint for this kind of coin door that originally had that kind of hammered finish. Of course, ideally, I could spend the money and get the stuff powder coated, which is what it was originally, but I just don't want to spend the dough. So I think this will look pretty good. All right, so we'll let that dry. And let's move on to the cabinet. So let's let that go, and I'll come back and put a couple more coats on later. Okay, so the cabinet, we got it all clean. We need to get the side art out. I'm wondering right now what I want to do next. The one thing I need to do is patch this hole here, okay, with some Bondo. And we're also going to do some Bondo on the edges. I think before we do that, though, let's get the side art off, and then we'll start doing our Bondo and sanding. So let me get my heat gun and a scraper, and we're going to attempt to get this off. Now, I suppose I could just leave this on and we could put the laminate over this, but I don't know, that seems a little amateur. So I really should take this off, and then we can prep this whole surface, sand this whole thing down, and that way we'll have a nice smooth surface, a nice consistent surface across the whole game when it comes time to put the laminate on. That's probably the thing to do. So, all right, let me get my heat gun, and we'll go to town on this this side art, and this is not gonna be fun. I think this is gonna be a pain in the butt to get off, but we'll give it a try. Okay, so I have to tell you, I'm a little tempted right now to go to the hardware store and get some stripper, because I suspect this is gonna suck. So, but let's see how this goes. If it doesn't go too well, I might get some chemicals, but we'll see. Because I know I've used that stripper before with control panel overlays, and the stuff works really well. But you know, this side art I think is really on here. Maybe not. Oh, that's coming off actually pretty nice. And you can see how white this cabinet used to be. Look at that. I thought that the cabinet was originally this kind of off-white color. That's not true. It was a very, very white color underneath the side art here. All right, let's see if we can... Stuff's kind of gummy. I think this is going to come off actually pretty easy. It's going to take me a while. Not too bad. It's all sticky. Boy, that really was white. And here I thought I needed to look for laminate that was kind of an off-white or an eggshell white. No, underneath here, this is pure white. Very, very white and very smooth. So the vinyl or whatever is on here just like yellowed over time. All right, so I'm gonna keep going with my heat gun, and let's see if we can just get this stuff off of here. This is not gonna be fun. Okay, I have the side art off, and it wasn't too bad, just a little time consuming. The one thing though is, honestly, I can't believe how white this material is underneath here. And it's really nice and smooth. It really is almost like a laminate. So this is like, you know, MDF, whatever, with, you know, some kind of a laminate type or vinyl that's on it. So I think when we get the white laminate, it's going to be very close to the original. It's going to feel very much the same. And so when I go to the store to the laminate place to get that laminate, I'm going to look for a very, very strong white color because the off-white is definitely not right. You could see just how white that is. That looks really great, actually. So, all right, so that's off. So I need to do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead, use my heat gun, and just get this side art off on this side too. So let's go ahead and do that.
The curse of the cosine
Okay, we got the side art off on this side. I do want to make a mental note here regarding the placement of the side art, because you could see that from the factory, it was about a 1/2 inch from the top and about 3/8 inch from the back. So when we put it on, we just got to make sure that we're really up high, because they were really close to the edge with the side art. You can see here, it was really close. So about 1/2 inch, a little less, and maybe 3/8 over here. So when we put the reproduction side art on, I'm gonna put it up really high. And it's pretty much centered in this area right here. We can just kind of see, it's like centered in between here. And about a 1/2 inch from the top and 3/8 from the edge. So just a mental note. Okay, so let's move on. What I want to do right now is I want to address the holes in the front here, because someone drilled some holes, and they had some kind of a padlock or security type thing on there so no one would steal the money out of the cash box. So we're gonna have to patch up these holes. Real simple. What I did is I went to the hardware store and I got some dowels. Okay, and this is, I think this is like 3/16 or something right here. So what we're gonna do is, I need to enlarge these holes though, because the holes that are in here now are smaller than my dowel. And so we'll just enlarge them. And I'm just gonna come in with the drill, and we're just gonna make them a little bit bigger. And that should be a nice size for this dowel. I just kind of eyeballed it. Yeah, that's real tight. And we'll just kind of pound it in there. So let's enlarge this one too. Okay, so we've got 2 new holes. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut our dowel down. And I'm just gonna use side cutters. And we're gonna cut the dowel down, and then we're gonna glue it in there. And I'm just gonna come in with some side cutters, and let's just cut a piece like so. I want it to stick out on the front, because we're gonna sand it smooth. And I want it to be kind of flush with the back. So here's one right here. See, and it's a pretty tight fit actually. My drill bit wasn't quite large enough. I wonder if I could pound it in with a wood mallet. Let me see what I have here. Yeah, it's gonna go in. So let me get some glue. And we're basically just gonna glue this dowel in there, and then afterwards we'll sand it smooth, and we're gonna Bondo over that to just make that pretty much disappear. And I've done this a lot on holes in the cabinet, and it actually works really well. Okay, so we got some wood glue on our little dowel. So let's go ahead and put that in there, and hopefully this works just fine. I got my hand on the back. Basically, it's going to pound it till it's pretty much flush with the back. Right there. Okay, so it's starting to poke out. So we'll do that, and then let's do the other one. And then I'll cut it down with my side cutters, and then we'll sand it smooth. Get the dowel here. So let's come in here and cut another piece. That's pretty good. Let me get my glue. And I'm just going to throw some glue on here, like so. My hole could be a little bit bigger, but this is actually a nice tight fit. There we go. Going sideways. Why is it doing that? Let me see if I can get something to put over that so we don't interfere with the other dowel, because it kind of wants to hit. Get another hammer. Okay, actually the dowel just kind of like snapped off in that hole. That's okay. So it's in there, it's glued, it's in pretty tight. So we're just gonna let this dry, and then we'll sand this smooth and fill this all in with Bondo, and we'll cut that down. But let's just let this stuff dry. Okay, so what are we gonna do now? I wanna start sanding. We need to get everything smooth, and we need to start doing our Bondo work on the edges. Now, I don't know, I mean, I could probably get away with not a lot of Bondo on this cabinet, because we've got these bottom corners here that aren't too hot, but our laminate is gonna cover that up. The front corner here is actually pretty good. That bottom front corner, that's actually not bad at all. That's pretty great, actually. Actually, it's rounded on the bottom. That's kind of cool. But what I do want to do, though, is I want to get all of this smooth. See all these little, like, hickeys and stuff? This thing got some water at some point, and there's little swelling things going on everywhere. And I want to sand all of that smooth so our laminate sits on there real nice. And so I think what we're going to do right now is let's put the game on its side. And let's do this side first. And so let me go ahead and do that real quick. And I think we're going to take our orbital sander and just kind of go to town on it and just smooth it out, and then also just kind of Bondo the edges. So this thing's pretty light right now because there's nothing in it. The monitor's out, power supply, game board, control panel. This is a very empty cabinet. So let's go ahead and put it on its side. I actually got to move it down a little bit more. Okay, let's put it down on its side here. And I haven't really inspected the bottom of this cabinet either. So, interesting. So it's got two leg levelers right here, which, that's weird. So it has two leg levelers, but none in the front. It actually has these skids that it's on. And then you have two leg levelers. So we're gonna have to replace those because they look like crap. But it looks like there was never any leg levelers in the front. And that's kind of cool how they rounded the front of the cabinet right there. So this piece of particle board comes down and then has a little bit of a radius here on the bottom, which gives it a nice finished front end. But it looks like there was never any leg levelers in the back, only in the front. That's really interesting. So this is all really hideous, and I think the only way to fix all this is to sand it down. This is not too swollen, but this all in here is. So I just want to get all of this smooth, and then let's see what we're dealing with, and then we'll think about Bondo. So let me get my orbital sander out, and let's go to town on this thing. Okay, so yesterday I went to Home Depot, and I picked up some 80 grit. These are the 5-inch universal hole pattern Velcro sand pads. So let's take this off. This is actually from the Journey. This thing is so dusty because of the Journey. Funny. So let's line this thing up best we can here with these holes, because these holes here actually suck the dust up. I really do like this orbital sander because of the Velcro. It's just so easy to change the pads. And let's see how the 80 grit does. All right, so let's plug this in, and I'm just gonna go to town here and see what happens. And I just want to get everything flat and smooth so that when we put the laminate on, we don't see any of the imperfections underneath. And I just want to knock all the high points down. Yeah, it's doing a good job. Okay, all done. It actually is really smooth. That worked out actually perfect. So I actually love this orbital sander. This is so much easier on a giant flat surface than that palm sander I had. It was a lot of work though, I tell you. It's a lot of back and forth, but I just kept taking my hand, and if I felt any bumps, I just kept going back over it, and it's smooth, guys. And I knocked down all those high spots that were in here because we had all those little hickeys from whatever water damage that happened in this cabinet. But actually, the wood underneath, the MDF, is actually in really good shape. So once we knocked down those high spots, it revealed some pretty good solid wood. So we're in pretty good shape on this side. So I'm gonna go ahead, stand the cabinet up, and then we're gonna do exactly the same thing on the other side. And we're getting somewhere. So, all right, let me stand this up and then we'll flip it over and do the other side. So let's just turn this around, and then we're gonna do this side now. Like so. And before you guys say anything about the dust and how I'm not wearing a mask, I'm gonna tell you, it's not really that dusty in here. I got the garage open, and that thing does an okay job collecting the dust, and it wasn't like it was last year when I was doing the journey, because I did all that sanding with the garage door shut, and I was gagging, so wasn't the case. So all right, I'm gonna go ahead and do the same exact thing on this side. This side is in pretty bad shape compared to the other side. The bottom here is all chewed up, so we're gonna have to really Bondo this stuff. But yeah, so let me go ahead and sand this, and we'll be back. Okay, this side's done, and honestly, this bottom edge cleaned up actually pretty nice. I don't really need to do much, if anything, to this. This is a nice corner here. We have a little bit of a gouge here I should probably fill in so it's flush. But overall, I have to say, the wood was in pretty good shape, you know? I just knocked all the high spots down, and it looks actually really good. And it's smooth, so this is a perfect surface now for our laminate. I was looking at the bottom here because it's really kind of ugly, and I really should address this in some way. I'm thinking about maybe sanding this down. I should clean all of this because it's just filthy. But maybe I should just take my sander real quick and just kind of junk off these skids. Maybe I'll spray that thing down with some simple green, and it's kind of ugly down there. I know no one's ever gonna see that, but it's just kind of gross. I should clean this up, and I don't know if we're gonna paint the bottom. Probably not. But let's just clean this up. There's all kinds of cobwebs and grossness down here. Might as well. I have an opportunity to do it since the game's on its side. And just kind of come here and clean this up. So this is going actually pretty smooth and quick. We just need to do a little bit of Bondo work and then paint the blue, and then it's time for the laminate. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do on the back of the game, because the back is blue, and I know when we did the journey, we left the back. We didn't paint it, and I kind of liked that. It was like this little reminder that this was an original game and not some reproduction, and I'm kind of thinking about leaving the back of the game alone. We'll see. But I do need to paint the back door, because I already started to paint it. When I was testing the paint out, I used the back door. But looks like this game was like in mud or something back here. And we'll let that dry, and then I'll sand this other riser too. But I think right now I want to look at the front of the game, and we're going to sand the front. There's like mud on here. I don't know what this is. I wonder if I should take my sander and just kind of get rid of all that grossness. We'll do that in a second. Need to replace these leg levelers. These are some ugly, rusty leg levelers. I'm all out of them, though. I need to order some. It's really weird that they only use 2 leg levelers. Okay, so what are we gonna do now? Let's stand the game up, and I think we're gonna put it on its back, because I want to look at the front, and we're gonna need to do the Bondo on those dowels that we glued. So let's kind of rotate this and put it on its back, on the mean green. But that looks pretty damn good. All right, so let's get it on its back. And I want to just sand the dowels down. Our glue is dry, and I just want to just sand all of this down. This is really filthy right here on this edge. See how black that is? So I'm going to sand this down and make it so it's not black. And then these edges here, I'm thinking about throwing some glue in here. Do you see how this is kind of flexy? I'm thinking about filling this with glue and just taking some clamps and letting it dry, because it's separating, and I think I should do that all the way down here on both sides. But first I want to sand this down. Let's see if we can make this look nice and clean in here, because I'm not really digging how it looks. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So I just basically wanted to roughen this up before we spray paint it and just make it nice and smooth here. Here's a little spot. Now the one thing with the orbital sander that's bad is that you cannot get up to the edge like you can with the palm sander. because the radius just won't go over there. So I'm gonna have to get my palm sander and we'll clean up these corners. But this is a lot cleaner and nicer now. And I feel good about painting that surface. I didn't feel good about painting the way it looked before. But right now, I do want to address our little Bondo patch job over here with these holes. So this glue is pretty much dry. I want to cut that down and then sand that smooth, and then we're going to fill it in with Bondo. So let me come in here with my side cutters, and I just want to be careful I don't really take too much away. Okay. Just kind of cut it as flush as I can. All right, so we got a little bit of a nub sticking out there. Let's see if our sander can make quick work of that. And it does, so that's nice and smooth. Over here we had that little issue where the dowel broke off in here, so we have a little bit of a gouge. But man, this one is just flush as can be. So we'll fill that in with just a little teeny tiny bit of Bondo. I'm tempted to fill it in with some wood glue and some sawdust and see if that would work. But boy, that's actually really nice. You can't even tell. I'm kind of tempted to drill a new hole here and put another dowel in. Because that's like darn near perfect. I don't need to do anything to this. There's no need for Bondo. That's so flush. But we've got a little bit of a gouge here where that, like I said, where that thing broke off. But I think we'll Bondo it. So let me get my Bondo together, and I need to think about what we're gonna do with the Bondo, because I don't really think I need to do very much on this game. After sanding the sides and the bottom, the cabinet actually doesn't look bad at all. I'm just not sure how much of this is going to show once we put the laminate, because we've got a gouge right here. We got to fill that in, make that smooth. But I don't really feel a need to do these edges at all. They're actually in really good shape. So, but we definitely want to fill that in, especially because it's on the front of the game. So let me just make a little bit of Bondo and we'll just fill this guy in. Hang on. Okay, so here's what we have. We have Bondo body filler. You can get this at Home Depot. You can get it at Ace Hardware. It's a two-part mix. So we're gonna just put the base on a paper plate here. And I'm just gonna shake some of this on here. We really don't need a lot, and this stuff dries really fast. So let's just get some right there. And we'll probably use this for this spot right here and also the sides. So let's take some of this hardener. This is the cream hardener. You mix this in here with this, and you want just a nice kind of even salmon color. And I usually just eyeball it. And I actually got some official Bondo spreaders. Saw those at Home Depot. I usually just use a cardboard or putty knife. So we'll see how this goes. So let's mix this up. And I tend to use way too much of this, I know, but I always can fix it with sanding. You know, I tend to put too much on and then just sand the heck out of it till it's smooth as heck. And so let's just mix this up. And it's not going to take much here to fill this, so let's just kind of come in here and just put some in there and just use our, like so. We still have a little bit of a hole. Let's fill that in. Okay, I see a little bit of a divot there. Let's just go like that. Not really filling it in there. There. Okay, so we'll let that dry, and then we'll sand it smooth. I see still a little bit of a low spot there. You might have to put a second application in. There, that looks good. Okay, so we'll let that dry. And then down here, we've got this little area. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in real quick before this Bondo dries. Because the Bondo does dry really quick, so I gotta hurry up here. I'm all tangled here. So let's pull out. All right, so let's fill this in. like so. That looks pretty good. Okay. Just kind of feather that. Stuff's starting to harden already. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay, that's that. Just looking around, I don't really see anything else to fill. That might be the extent of our Bondo. So let's let that dry about 10 minutes and we'll come back and sand it smooth. Okay, actually, while we're waiting for this to dry, it's been about 10 minutes or so, but it's a little tacky. It just doesn't feel very dry to me. I want to fill in the edges here because you can see this is like all loose, okay? And all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pour glue in here and then we're gonna clamp it down. And that way it can't fall apart and get worse. So and we might have to recut our T-molding groove, but I'm just gonna take wood glue and just go all the way down this edge here and just fill this in. And then we'll clamp it down. And I'm just gonna fill this whole crack up. Just gonna fill it up. I don't care how messy I am, I'm just gonna really fill this thing up with glue. Because this is all coming apart. And let's really fill this up. And then I'm just gonna take these clamps. I got these like for $1 at the hardware store in like the junk bin. So let's just clamp this down. And maybe I'll throw 3 on here. And we'll just let this dry for about a half hour or so. And let's throw one down here too. Let me throw some more glue in here. And we're gonna have to come in with the router and recut our T-molding groove. I'm okay with that. All right, let's fill that up. Okay. And then let's go do the same thing on the other side. This side isn't as bad, but it's still a little flexy, especially down here on this side. So let's just fill this up. It's really bad down here. It's actually not really bad at all up here, but we'll throw some in. We could make it a little tighter. All right, so let's get our clamps. Let's put one down here. This is the worst spot. And I've got this clamp. Like so. And let me get one more clamp and then we'll just completely clamp it down. All right, I'm gonna put one more clamp on here and then we're gonna let all of this dry and then we'll come back and sand our Bondo. The wood glue, I'm not sure how... it does say, do not stress joint for 24 hours. Glue to surface and clamp for a minimum of 30 minutes. So I'll be back in about a half hour. And we'll let that glue set. Maybe I'll go inside and play some Splatoon. All right, we'll be back in about a half hour. All right, guys, it's been about 45 minutes. I was actually playing Battlefield 4. But anyway, the glue is not dry. I need to stop here. It's Sunday, about 4 o'clock. I really should not do anything until this glue dries. So I'm gonna let it dry overnight. I'm gonna keep it clamped. And then we'll come back in the next video. We'll sand this thing down. We'll paint the blue. I might get the laminate for the sides before then. We'll see. But we're getting pretty close here, guys, to being done with this. Really, we just need to paint it blue, put the laminate on, and that's it. And then put it all back together, put the side art on, etc. But we are kind of at the finish line here. I would like to maybe finish this in one more video. We'll see. It might end up being two, but we're close. And I did come in here with my palm sander, the rectangular shaped one, not the round orbital one, and I got in here on the edges and smoothed all this out. But I feel pretty good. We actually got a lot accomplished today. The cabinet has been addressed, and we got nice sharp corners all around, and I feel pretty good about this. This is going to go together really smooth. My only concern is the spray paint. I'm not a big fan of spray painting cabinets, but we'll see how that goes. Especially because I'm using a gloss blue, but the color is really good. So we'll see in the next video. But I'm going to let this stuff dry. I think it'll be well worth it to do it and not rush this right now, because it's very tempting to rush it. You can see the glue is kind of oozing out here. That's okay. I'm going to leave that alone. We'll sand that smooth after it dries. But I feel pretty good. So, all right, guys, let's end this and let's go back down to the basement. Oh, I cannot wait till this game is downstairs. Honestly, we're so close. So, all right, guys, let's go back down. All right, guys, there you have it. That was part number 6 of the Jumpbug restoration, and we're getting somewhere. I was hoping to get to the blue paint today, and we didn't. You know what? I need to let that glue dry. It's really the right thing to do. I don't want to rush it, because I really want that cabinet to be nice and solid, and I really think that glue drying is pretty critical here. So let's let that dry. We'll come back in a few days. I might revisit that in the middle of this week. Actually, I have a couple videos in the can, because I was in Atlanta last week, and I do want to thank everybody that I met, because you guys are all freaking awesome. I met so many awesome people in Atlanta. Everyone in Atlanta is awesome. I mean, honestly. And there were so many John's Arcade shirts, it blew my mind. So thanks to everyone I met. Thanks to everyone that came to my little speak things. But I filmed the whole thing. I did a tour with Ben Heck. I also did another video with Ben Heck that's going to be on the Ben Heck show and also on here. And I'll be releasing that also in the next few weeks here. But basically, if you guys remember Erie, he wrote in, he lost his arm. He was looking for a controller to use with one hand. And Ben made him an assisted device. And we filmed all that. Ben brought the device to Southern Fried Game Room Expo. So anyway, I want to thank everyone I met. Actually, I forgot something. Let me go get it. Hang on. So, when I was in Atlanta, I was speaking. I had 2, discussions, okay? And I think I am the worst with names. Don't take this personally, but I'm pretty sure his name was Mike, WebDoc, right? He gave me this award, okay? During my speak, and it was pretty hilarious because it says here, Brother John, 2015 Brown Paint Award of Excellence from Georgia chapter of John's Arcade Fan Club. So, thank you very much for my award. I will display it proudly and always here on the table when we're doing the videos, just as a reminder of how awesome everyone in Atlanta was. So thank you very much, Mike. It is Mike, right? Yeah. And then also, and I'll talk about this later. When I was doing one of my talks, Walter Day and Billy Mitchell barged in, and they awarded me my own trading card. So I will be getting some Walter. I guess it's not Twin Galaxies anymore. So I got a Walter Day trading card, like superstars of video games or something. So that floored me, honestly, because I wasn't expecting that. I didn't know it was going to happen, and they barged in, and they gave me this award, Billy Mitchell and Walter Day. It was so awesome. It was so surreal. So, yes, the Atlanta trip was a good time, and I have videos. We're going to be revisiting this topic over the next few weeks. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly thank everybody. So, all right, I want to do some viewer mail here, and I printed out a few. Let's do this kind of quick because this video is kind of long. Anyway, the first one here is from Chris. It says, "Hey, John, thanks a lot for doing such great videos. I've been watching you for a long time, and you really spawned me wanting to build a collection of games. Currently, I have a Neo Geo 4-slot Big Red and a Nintendo Unisystem converted from a Donkey Kong Jr. I got the Unisystem at a crazy price, $50. That is a good price, with a bad monitor. I recapped the monitor, and it works great. Your Sanyo easy video helped me a lot. My question is, what games are available on the Nintendo versus Unisystem that can be played by 2 people? I know RBI Baseball is one, but I know some of the 2-player games have to be played on a red tent. I'd like to play simultaneously with a friend instead of switch back and forth like 2-player games like Gradius. I heard a balloon fight is one that you have to use on a red tent. Is that true? That's one game I need to have. Thanks a lot, John, and keep up the great work, Chris. Okay, so Chris has a Unisystem, okay, which is a single monitor versus cabinet. Okay, so this is the dual monitor. This is the dual system right here. So he's got the single monitor version. This one has 2 monitors, one on this side and one on that side. Now this cabinet right here, you can have games that kind of talk to each other. So you have, like for instance, Balloon Fight, you can play head-to-head. One person's on this side, one person's on the other side. Each player gets their own controls and their own monitor, and they play against each other, okay? So Nintendo Baseball is one of those, tennis, stuff like that, okay? And then if you had a Unisystem cabinet, it's a single monitor cabinet, okay? So you can't play some of those head-to-head games that are designed only for the versus dual system. Now, yes, Balloon Fight is a game that will only work on the versus dual system. You could probably put that in a Unisystem and it'll work. It's just that you only have one player. The other player will not be able to play, okay? Now, the one game that pops into my mind right away that you can play on a Unisystem 2-player simultaneous is Ice Climber, okay? Ice Climber is great, okay? Now, if you go to my website, johnsarcade.com or nintendovs.com, will both get you to this page. I have a Nintendo Verse Tech page that lists all the systems and all the PPUs and all that stuff that goes with them. And let's go through the list. I'll go through the list with you, and let's see if we can figure out which games are 2 players simultaneous on a single monitor. I suspect we're not going to find many, okay? So versus Baseball, as far as I know, that is only a dual system game. I don't think you can play it on a single monitor. Versus Freedom Force is a gun game. Gradius is 2 players, but you're taking turns. Same thing with Hogan's Alley. Same thing with Mock Rider. Versus Pinball, taking turns. Atari RBA Baseball would be simultaneous play. Platoon, that it would be a taking turn game. Super Sky Kid, that's a simultaneous game. Yeah, I think it is. Research that. I'm pretty positive that Versus Super Sky Kid is a simultaneous game where each of you pilot a plane. I'm pretty certain of that. I think that is. Okay, let's go down the list. Castlevania, you take turns. Ladies Golf, you take turns. Mock Rider, take turns. Random Bungling Bay, take turns. Slalom, take turns. Golf, take turns. Wrecking Crew, that is a dual system game. That's for two monitors. Dr. Mario, take turns. Excite Bike, take turns. Goonies, take turns. Balloon Fight is a dual system. Soccer, that is probably a game that you can play 2 players simultaneous, but that is a bad game. TKO Boxing, you can't box each other, can you? Yeah, I don't think you can. Clueland, is that a take turn game? I think it is. Excite Bike, Ice Climber is simultaneous. That I think is going to be the must-have game. Tennis is a dual system. Battle City, I think Battle City actually might be a simultaneous game. Look into that. I guess I'm realizing I haven't played a lot of these in 2-player mode, so I'm not really positive. Just go, Tetris. Versus Tetris should be a simultaneous game. Actually, Dr. Mario's a simultaneous too. That's okay. So we missed Dr. Mario. Dr. Mario, you're gonna play head-to-head against the other player. So Dr. Mario is gonna be a must-have, and Ice Climber, Mighty Bomb Jack, take turns. I don't know. Am I helping you? I guess I'm realizing off the top of my head I really don't know. But I would go to my site at johnsarcade.com and also nintendoversus.com and go through the list. But I can tell you right off the bat that Ice Climber and Dr. Mario are going to be really safe bets. All right, next one here is from Lee. It says, "Hi, John. Love your channel. Thanks for sharing your passion." It says, "Watching your channel last year motivated me to want to build my own cabinet. Always loving Dragon's Lair as a child, I wondered about getting one. The cost and reliability of these old machines put me off, so I started to design a replica cabinet and run the game in emulation. My prototype is now done and has been running for a while. I will shortly be making a new cabinet using this template, but with 3/4 inch plywood. I now have a problem. Despite my love for this game and the amazing artwork Don Bluth did for this, along with Space Ace, I have concerns over the longevity and sustained playability. I was interested to know your thought about and feelings about yours. With this in mind, I've been tinkering with putting additional games in the cabinet, but keeping the same original design, especially the control panel with the single joystick and single fire button. This now has me wondering what games I can run and should put in there that need no more than one fire button as most. What games would you list as must-haves in a cabinet with this configuration? No doubt Donkey Kong is top of your list. Interested in what others might be. Thanks again for all the time and effort you put in this hobby. Okay, so Lee built a replica Donkey Kong. I mean, a replica Dragon's Lair, which is super cool, right? So here's an original dedicated, okay? So he's bored, okay? And you know what? I don't blame you, because if I only had Dragon's Lair, I would not be happy. I would not. It's not enough. Okay, it is a very kind of one-dimensional game. Right now I have the Space Ace disc in here, but this is the Dragon's Lair. I swapped the discs out. So yes, I too would be bored if I only had a Dragon's Lair. Okay, so you have a replica cabinet, right? And you're running emulation, Daphne, I imagine, right? So, you know what? I would probably put MAME in there, and I would start taking advantage of this joystick and these buttons. Okay, so what games? Well, first of all, let's talk about the monitor orientation. This is a horizontal monitor, right? So you're kind of limited. So the games that pop into my mind, you know, one joystick and one button. Well, Donkey Kong isn't going to work too well because that's a vertical game. But, you know, there's tons of horizontal games. Okay, so Mario Brothers, you can play that. Jungle King, Jungle Hunt is great. Elevator Action. There's actually a lot of games. Let's see, Tapper. You can play Tapper for sure. I'm just looking around my arcade. Oh, Zookeeper plays awesome in MAME. Zookeeper would be great. I'm trying to think of other classic horizontal games. Well, Moon Patrol is a perfect game. All the Nintendo Versus games would work great with this setup. Most of them, you can get away with one button. So, yeah, I mean, there are a ton of games out there. Now, if you're not willing to put MAME, I'm assuming you have Daphne now and not MAME. So you can look into the arcade SD board. That has a lot of horizontal games on it, a lot of classics. And if you go to phoenixarcade.com, he's got a whole list of what horizontal games are supported on that. And that's really most of the classics. But there's a lot of them, you know, like Rally X and Defender. Joust would work. Joust would be a good game. There's a lot of good Williams games, Moon Patrol, Kung Fu. I mean, there's tons of horizontal games. So, I mean, if you're going to get just, you know, a MAME setup, just download all the, just figure out which games have one button and just start putting them on there. There's actually a lot of them. So that's a great setup. And if you are building a second cabinet, why not build a vertical? Right? Then you'll have a horizontal and a vertical, and you kind of have the best of both worlds. So he did send me a picture of his replica cabinet. I printed it out, but it's just a little thumbnail. But if you can see there, looks pretty great, actually. It looks just like a Dragon's Lair. So anyway, Lee, good luck, man. Let me know what you end up doing. And if anyone has some ideas for Lee, leave comments in this episode here. All right, the last one here is from Chris. It says, hey John, I just got my first game. It was a track and field, but was converted to a Power Instinct. I don't know that game. It looks like it is the same. I'm in the same boat you were in your journey. And if you can help, I need to find a full art kit. CPO and the panel side, art marquee, PCB, cap kit. I saved this game from being maimed or scrapped. It's my first game out of many. I'm sure I've had, he says he sure had the arcade bug for 5 or 6 years now. He used to play this game in his aunt's trailer park in the early 90s. So now that I've scratched the itch, I'm afraid of getting ripped off by scammers on eBay and Craigslist. Any help on where to get the parts will be great, and a baseline price is where to get. He said he paid $400 for the game. He thinks he overpaid. He said, here's a picture of what she looks like today, gets delivered on Saturday. He didn't actually attach a photo. All right, so you paid $400 for this. Okay, well, you did kind of pay a lot, but you know what? You're in now, so there's no turning back, you know. For a track and field conversion, you know, you don't really want to spend $400, but you know what? It sounds like you did already. So let's talk about how we get this back to original, okay? So my track and field was a conversion. Actually, this track and field was saved, okay? Same thing like you, okay? Someone had converted this into a Clax, okay? And I think it was Clax. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, or Tax. One of those games. Someone jammed this cabinet, okay? And it was converted into either a Tax or a Clax, I don't remember. And so I converted it back. Actually, a friend of mine started it and I finished it. He started the project and didn't finish it, and then I finished the whole thing. So we painted, actually, he painted the cabinet white and blue and all that, and it looks great, okay? And then the original wiring harness was completely gone, all right? And so what I did was I got a JAMA harness with a Konami adapter, okay? So that's a nice down and dirty way to rewire this if you don't have the original track and field harness. It sounds like you don't, okay? So if that cabinet's been JAMA-tized, no, don't worry about it, okay? Go out there and get a Konami to track and field adapter. You should be able to get that at arcadeshop.com. It should be about 30 bucks, something like that, okay? Now, artwork, go to Phoenix Arcade. They've got the side art, okay? Go to Phoenix. The artwork's not cheap, but that's gonna be really the best and only place to buy this artwork, okay? You can get the side art and the overlay there, and it's all high quality. I haven't put my side art on yet, and I should soon. Now, the marquee, you're gonna have to just find that used somewhere. I would go to Clove or eBay and look for this. I wouldn't pay any more than $30. You know, $20 to $30 is ideal for the marquee, okay? Now, you're also gonna need a PCB, it sounds like. Okay, that PCB, you wanna be somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 bucks, okay? $125. Do not spend $200, $300. That's not how much that PCB is worth, okay? That PCB is worth less than 150 bucks. Ideally, you wanna be around 100 bucks. So, you know, what do you do to find one and not get ripped off? Well, your best bet always is going to be from buying from another collector, if you can. You know, of course, you find the most collectors on Clove, KLOV.com. You can make a wanted to buy post there or troll the for sale forum. Or you can try on eBay. You might get lucky on eBay, but again, don't spend 300 bucks on the PCB. It's not worth that much. That is a $100 PCB. That's your target price. If you have to go a little bit over and there's a guarantee and it's working and the seller seems like a good guy, all right, maybe spend 25, 50 bucks for peace of mind, but don't go over really much past 150. Ideally 100, okay? And really, that's all you need to do. As far as cap kits go, if you need to cap the monitor, talk to Bob Roberts, therealbobroberts.net. Just Google The Real Bob Roberts. That's going to be the best place to get a cap kit. Cap kits are like $7, okay? So, you know, I love this project. Please keep me updated, okay? If you have any questions or need any help with this track and field, let me know. I will help you, okay? And actually, join the John's Arcade forum, you know, at johnsarcade.com. Go in the forum, start a thread, okay? We can all help you with this. I think what you're doing is good. And I want to encourage you to bring this game back to life, Chris. So if you have any questions or need any help, go to the John's Arcade forum and start a thread about your track and field because I'd love to help. So let's have a discussion there. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, I'm sorry that I kind of got off track the last couple weeks, but we are back on track. I am in full garage mode starting now. I actually can't wait to get back out there after that glue dries and paint that cabinet blue. I'm going to try to go get that laminate this week too. And then also, I need to carve some time out to edit my Atlanta video. I was going to do that this weekend, but that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to sit at that computer for 5 hours editing that video. I really wanted to get into the garage. So anyway, thank you, Atlanta and Mike. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it. Check out my podcast, Video Game Outsiders at videogameoutsiders.com, Arcade Outsiders at arcadeoutsiders.com. And then also, we need to talk about that phone giveaway. I'll try to do that in the next week here, because that phone is upstairs sitting on my counter, and I want to give it to you guys. And I'm talking about the LG, is it LG4 or G4? Yeah. So LG sent me a phone to review, and I'm not a phone review guy, so I'm going to give it to you guys. So we're going to do a raffle. So I'll tell you the details hopefully next week. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Later, and bye.